And I'm so glad you're joining me today. I'm Chevy Cool Lady. We'll just give it a minute. Come on in. We're talking about domestic violence. We're talking about breadcrumbing. Have you heard that term? We're talking about feeling bad about a relationship that's supposed to be so darn good, but just isn't. I'm talking about life with a narcissist. So come on in while we discuss this very important topic. I'm Chevy Cool Lady. If this is your first time here, let me welcome you in. This is a safe place to discuss ideas that are outside the box, true crime as it relates to narcissistic abuse. We talk about Christian issues, and I provide tools for your toolbox to help you become empowered to live a better life. Isn't that what we all want? So as I empower you, I'm empowering myself as well. It's a beautiful relationship. We're starting this community from the ground up, and if this sounds like a place you'd like to be, please subscribe, please like and share. Help this community grow. It would help me out a whole lot. I really appreciate it. And if you're a returning sub, you mean the world to me. I love you so much. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking about domestic violence. As you know, Chevy Cool Lady wants to stamp out all forms of domestic violence. And so we're going to talk about what is a hard conversation. What's a conversation a lot of people just don't want to have. But this is a real issue in the lives of a lot of people. There's mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. There's all kinds of abuse. There's religious abuse. There's abuse that takes place in the workplace. It's a damn shame that things have to be this way. Hi, Ava. Come on in. I'm so glad you caught me this morning. I'm so glad. Welcome in. Welcome in. So we're going to get started today, and I'm going to bring up a topic that you've probably heard a lot, and that is the trauma bond. What is a trauma bond? It's not really what it sounds like. You might think that it is a shared trauma that pulls you close together, but the reality of trauma is it does very little to pull people together. It does a lot to separate and isolate. So what is a trauma bond? If you're in a relationship and you feel like the old saying goes, I can't live with him and I can't live without him, you're probably in a trauma bond relationship. So let's go over what this is. Past trauma, individual trauma is probably what draws you guys together. There's a sense of, well, you've been through a lot, therefore I can understand and relate to you. I've been through a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that on the surface, but when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, we'll find how isolating and disassociating this type of behavior really can be. So it's not a shared trauma together, but it is what joins you. It's an intense relationship that gets fostered between good moments and emotional abuse. There's a lot of feelings that overflow, feelings of invalidation, feelings of betrayal, feelings of rage, a confusion and a chaos, because there's an alternating between chaos and bad moments and cool, just all right moments that sometimes you want to refer to as the good days, the good times. When you really look at it, it might not have been nearly as much fun as you thought. Welcome in. I'm so glad to have you here today. Come on in. Please hit the like button if you would for me. I'd appreciate it. A trauma bond is it's like a shared sense of purgatory. It's a hell of not knowing how to live without another person that's potentially very bad for you. You don't want to be alone. You're in a trauma bond. You're held in a prison of your own devices due to your own past traumas that have never healed, that have caused even a disassociation in your personality where you're compartmentalizing. The good times belong in this box, in the relationship, and the bad times, the abuse, and that goes somewhere else. And there's not a correlation between the two. You're in a trauma bond, but the trauma is of your own life that's unhealed. And are you attracted to people who've also been in trauma bonds, or have been in traumatic situations, who have been traumatized, whose personalities have been distended and are not healthy? Are you attracted to that type of person? Why? Because of the intensity of the relationship, and misunderstanding that for love is probably at the root. The fear of being alone, it can be paralyzing. The fear of being alone. But if you're with a person who's narcissistic, whose love is for themselves, who is not out for your ultimate good, why is it so scary to be without that person? Why? We're going to talk about that a little bit more. We're going to recognize that a trauma bond relationship has certain elements to it, and we're going to go over that. So come on in. I think a lot of people are really suffering, and we're bringing up the conversation that's hard to have, the conversation where you have to dig inside yourself as well as understand what's really going on. Wipe the veil of illusion from your eyes. Open up your eyes to the reality of what's going on in your life. And it's so hurtful to think that you're in a relationship with somebody and that they don't really care about you. And you tend to over exaggerate the goodness of your good times. Like, I remember when I was with my narcissist and we went camping, and I tried to make it seem like we were having such a good time. Why were we having such a good time? Because he wasn't texting the girl he was cheating with? That made it a good time. Because other times when I knew what he was up to, it was a bad time. So when the very worst of the behavior wasn't prevalent, that made it a good time? No, not really, because there was a lot of coldness. There was a lot of indifference. Looking back on pictures, oh, I had a smile plastered on my face, but it was covering up some insulting remark that he had just made. You know, that's not really a good time. Trauma bonds. What if I'm wrong? Your body has known for a long time, but your mind resists. You get feelings that something's not right in a relationship. It's like your body knows, but your mind refuses to accept the fact that this isn't a good relationship. This isn't healthy. This isn't good for me. You're so busy catering to that other person, to the narcissist in your life, who will take and take and take and take. And when you stop taking, you stop giving, put it that way, you put up a boundary, there's going to be strong resistance to that, because you're not allowed to have any rights. You're not allowed to have friends. You are to be isolated. You don't have a family who loves you, and everything else that the narcissist likes to tell their victims. But none of that's true. You're looking at life through the eyes of your narcissist, through the eyes of your abuser. Trauma bonds. Trauma bonds. The relationship alternates from good to bad, from normal, which isn't even good, to bad, and it constantly is going back and forth. You're walking on eggshells all the time. You don't even know this person that's in your life, that's supposed to be your special person. They don't really treat you special, do they? No matter how much you do for them, it's never quite good enough. Trauma bonds. The day you're not yelled at turns out to be a good day. That's how low your standards are sinking in this narcissistic relationship, in this abusive relationship, in the trauma bond. Now a good day isn't even really that good of a day. It's just a day you're not getting yelled at, you're not getting picked on, you're not getting hit, you're not getting abused as badly as other days. Those are the bad days now. Good, your good is now messed up. You're getting what's called breadcrumbs. You're getting breadcrumbs. The after he's done eating all his full, you're just getting a little bit of attention, a little, maybe not even a compliment, but something that you can latch onto, like, he loves me. Yeah, you know, this isn't love. This is breadcrumb. It's just giving you enough to keep you wanting more. Uh, narcissists are promise without delivering. They promise you so much and they deliver so little. Think of every holiday that you've spent with your narcissist and how they've ruined it for you, because that's typical. They can't stand for you to be happy. Literally, they cannot stand it. That even if it starts off to be a good day, if you start being a little bit happy, they're going to try to steal that from you, because they're not out for your ultimate good. They're out for themselves. And what they want is power and control. They don't even care about happiness and peace or any of those good elements that should be in your relationship. They don't care about love. They care about control. Control freaks. Control freaks. It's hard to be with people like that. It makes you lose yourself, and yet you're afraid that if you leave, someone else is going to come along and hit the jackpot. All of a sudden, they're going to be that person that you've always wanted them to be. But that's where you're mistaken. They're just going to go into another narcissistic relationship with the next victim that they have on their little trail of victims. And the thing about it is, it's easy to get in a point where you feel like somebody's going to come along and make them a better person, but that's not how people become better. You don't become better because of another person. And if they're unhealthy in their mind, they're going to keep on being unhealthy. But it's your job to make yourself healthy, no matter what it takes, even if it takes facing a life by yourself. It's really not that bad. I'm a single person and I actually love it. I've been single for 5 years, out of all narcissistic relationships, and my mind and my body's healthy. I might not have lived through it had I have stayed. Um, and that's not for everybody, but it's good for me. It's excellent for me. And I want you guys to find what's excellent for yourselves, and that's to be able to regain your critical thinking, regain the voice that was stolen from you through a narcissistic relationship. Come back to who you really are, what things that you like, what things you enjoy. You probably know so much about your narcissist that you've forgotten yourself in the process, and it's time to regain your own mind. And there's ways to do it. And I'm going to talk about that. That's what I call tools for the toolbox. So you may feel like you still have love for your person, and you want to hold on to the good, and you try to change during the breadcrumbing stage, and there's a reflection of the narcissist having their fill of you. And narcissists are novelty seekers. Many narcissists just go from one relationship to another, from one project to another, from one hobby to another, from one good time to another. What they're seeking is novelty. So a lot of them end up having affairs, and multiple affairs at that. They bore easily. They are indifferent. Unless they're frustrated or they have a need, breadcrumbing creates a lessened expectation from the victim. It's a lowering of the bar. So as you're satisfied or not satisfied, but accepting the breadcrumbs that they give to you, you're expectation of what even a healthy relationship or a good relationship is dwindling away. So the breadcrumbing lessens, so does your standards. You'll see these three elements kicking in from your narcissist: the sense of entitlement, indifference, selfishness, and it kicks in more and more. The smallest thing is exaggerated, and the victims left usually having to buffer and buff that narcissist ego and tell them how great they are and how even the smallest thing, how what a wonderful thing that was, and stuff like that. It makes the relationship so shallow. So little is given, and elaborate justification is required. Yeah, okay, they got out their tools after 6 months and fixed that squeaky door, and boy, you just can't say enough about that, can you? Or whatever. Cognitive distance. Yeah, so the breadcrumbing starts, creating fruit that's dying on the vine. It's you have a little bit of hope, a little expectation. You see something starting to happen, and that's when they'll act indifferent and act cold with you, and you blame yourself. Narcissists makes big messes, and then they come in like they're the problem solver when they're the problem maker, and they come up with some scheme and plan to fix everything. They love to do that. The victim's trauma or significant loss, uh, the narcissist victims have usually experienced significant loss in their life, or have been through trauma that creates a vulnerability in them. The narcissist goes after the vulnerable victim. The narcissist is like a wrecking crew. Anxious attachments. They love bomb you, and when things have calmed down, they create chaos and disorder in your life and in theirs. It's what they do. Then they come in and try to normalize the situation and come in like a hero, cleaning up the messes that they make. Any sense of empathy can be used against you when you set boundaries and disengage. Like therapists say, that you gray rock them and cause them to you have to actually actively ignore them just to start regaining your own mind. You can feel mean, you can feel like a bad guy. They'll make you feel that way as you take steps to put boundaries up for your own sanity's sake. It's very important, if you're in a relationship that is perhaps a marriage, say, or a live-in relationship, especially. But if you're in a situation where you're being abused, it's important to journal and document the abuse in clear, concise, um, in clear and concise language that documents the uh, time and date any instances happen, any witnesses, if there's video evidence supporting your case, if you're going through a divorce. Having this kind of documentation is very important. It's important that you keep it in place, that the narcissist will not find your records. You are right. I'm here to say you are right to distance yourself from the narcissist. A narcissist's bad choices are not your prison. A lot of them will threaten to do harm to themselves and to others. And these things have to be taken real seriously. Sometimes people do what they say they're going to do. And regardless, the only real way to deal with the narcissist is through disengagement. You can't give them fuel for the fire, because even your empathy is used against you. any personal stories, photographs, anything they have that could be used against you needs to be minimized at a particular point as you disengage from them. I'm here to say that, I'm a survivor from narcissistic abuse. I made it, and you can make it too. There's a lot of help out there, and it begins in your own mind. You deserve a better life. You deserve to be happy. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much.